Hello and welcome back to Spanish Animation. I'm your host, Dennis Bithoulkas, and this is Dispatches from Elsewhere, Season 1, Episode 8, Lee. And all I can say is, if you didn't get teary-eyed at some point during this thing, then you might want to check for a pulse. That's all I'm going to say. So let me take care of some business first, and then we'll get down to it. If you like what you see here, like, share, and subscribe. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, wait till the very end of this video. You're going to see a video pop up here. Basically, what YouTube does, takes the algorithms of all the stuff that you've been watching and tries to match them as best as possible. One of the videos in my vast video library and pops it up there just for you. Up here is going to be Westworld, is what's going to go on. If you want to know when I'm going to be on live again next, you can hit the bell down below. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. Best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com, take a look at the schedule up there, which I change out every week. And I usually am within 15 minutes, half an hour of that. Usually I'm on time, but this one was just beyond me because I didn't know Better Call Saul was going to be half an hour late into this. So, what else? I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, I have a Patreon page, but no tiers set up as of yet. And I also have a Facebook page, which you guys can post stuff on and talk amongst yourselves. It's a Facebook group. And there we go. Spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the episode. If you have not seen the episode, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch, for the paddle. So, whoa, as everything goes to hell in a handbasket there as I'm rushing through that part there. Sorry, I only had 2 minutes from the end of the episode to kind of set everything up and get ready there. So for those of you who have watched the documentary that this is based on called The Institute, the very beginning, that one guy who's just staring at you at the screen, he's the real Octavio Coleman. He's the one who played Octavio Coleman in the real game that happened in San Francisco. So to have him be there and auditioning for the role of Octavio, just made me fucking laugh for like a good like 5-10 minutes long, to the point where I was actually missing our Octavio's introduction of who Lee is and how, what she's doing, why she's trying to set up this game. And we see, basically all these Octavios out there auditioning when the Chucks go in, of course, to do their audition. And Lee is basically telling her PAs what she needs, from the flyers to the Sasquatch suit, to getting deals from the city made done and all that kind of stuff. She's got money. That's what she's setting this all up for. So she can set everything up this way, I should say. Excuse me. I'm sorry, you're going to hear my throat clear quite a bit. And I apologize also if the internet craps out on this. Hopefully it doesn't, because it's been holding good for a little while there, but knock on wood, hopefully it actually holds up a lot better. Okay, so we see Lee watching over our group through orientation. So we get to see this entire series so far through Lee's eyes at this point. We see her watching over the group through orientation and taking notes on everything, and she sees Peter break down and start crying. And I don't know if you noticed, but when she goes into the psychiatrist, it's Peter's psychiatrist as well. They share the same psychiatrist. So Peter and Lee actually share the same psychiatrist. And Lee's talking about uh, uh her psychiatrist asks if it's about Clara again, what's happening to her, and she goes, no. Well, yeah, it probably is. So yeah, I mean, it's a small world, I guess you could say at this point. Um, we also get to see the limo scene from Lee's perspective, and I love her on the walkie-talkie saying, "Uh-oh, the hardcore's on the side of the limo. Does anyone have eyes on him? Screw it, we don't have time for this. Just let him go." And what can he do anyway? And then of course, Fredwin climbs into the trunk of the limo. And so that's when she starts changing aspects of the game to suit our quartet that we have going on here. Yeah. Uh, it's Man, also Lee's perspective from the apartment, as well. Uh, when when the little girl opens up the door to the apartment, that's actually their staging area, and it wasn't Lee's actual residence. So when the kid comes out, who happens to be one of her PA's kids, and she goes out and basically just rolls with it, which I was like, "Holy shit, that was actually some really good improv on her part of just rolling with that shit and, making stuff happen." Yeah, I get again, Viking bitch, yeah, are you the villain of your own story? Yeah, some days you are, and, yeah. And then, of course, the milkman is her right-hand guy, and, he tells Lee that, that the group found Clara's house. The main group is what he calls them, the main group, by the way. So there might be another group out there that we haven't seen as of yet. I didn't cry, you cried. Thanks, yo, dude. I did actually, so, I'm man enough to admit that. Um, Milkman basically tells Lee that they found Clara's house, and they also found her house too, and they're on their way there right now, and she's like, "Shit!" So they have to run over there, and she's pulling down pictures of everybody that's in the game. The main group, basically the main people that she's focusing on in the game, and she's pulling all their pictures off the wall. She knocks over the lamp. They stage her apartment to basically look like somebody escaped. And I thought that was actually brilliant. And she goes, "You need to get them to the final, uh, to the end game." Essentially, is what she tells the milkman, which of course he does. Yeah, that whole thing there. And, so the final end game, of course, Lee ends up giving, Janice that card, and the card has a name on it and an address. And that address leads them to a cemetery, and they're looking for T. Emerson. And, we see it cuts back and forth between, them going into the mausoleum, finding the urn of Clara's urn, and having a tape recorder there, and Lee going into an old house in Fishtown, which is Clara's room because we see the painted window actually, down in the basement, and she finds Clara's tape recorder. And this was early on before she even started the game. And it's all Clara talking into the tape recorder about what she wanted to do besides just creating art to make people happy, but you know, um also to you know, her idea was to make the game people come together is what it was. And so Lee leaves this tape recorder there for them to find so they can hear the exact same words that she did. Yeah, I agree with you, dude. It was very, very moving. Um, and then we see, of course, after all this is done, when they have, found the tape recorder and that, we see Lee walking into a boardroom with all these people with the weird glasses on, and they're applauding her, and she leaves and has a panic attack. And we see that she is the one that actually owns Bender Elmore, that company that Peter worked for. So I started wondering if maybe that all the people that were in this game had worked for some semblance of Bender Elmore at some point in time, and maybe she was just data mining them, kind of like Fredwin said they were doing to begin with. And that was another thing that I was thinking of as well in this is that maybe her stuff wasn't as altruistic as we thought it was to begin with. Maybe there's just a little bit of evil that was in there as well. Because, how do you put that all together, even if you have all that money? Um, and we also find out that Clara had sold her company to Lee 6 months before she died. So, yeah. So the group meets at the diner, and I love that the waitress who's been waiting on them all this entire time pretty much sums up everything up into this episode about what was happening. And now that the game has ended, what's gonna happen next? And like, no, we're gonna keep coming in. We're friends now, is what Peter says. And this is the spot that we hang out in. You're gonna see us more and everything. And Peter asks Simone out, and Janice gets a phone call. She has to, leave. And Simone accepts the date, of course, and yeah, it's Yeah, it's been fun eavesdropping on you is what the waitress says. Yeah, that whole thing. And, Janice has to leave, Fredwin leaves, soon afterwards, and Simone leaves as well because she doesn't want that to be their official first date, because otherwise they'd be alone in the diner, and that would be their first date, yeah. So, Peter takes Simone out to a nice restaurant, because he Googled it and he's looking for the most romantic place. He'd never been there before, and, yeah, they're both very nervous, and they're talking about the game being over and having beauty withdrawal, which I thought was kind of an interesting term, beauty withdrawal. And yeah, they're both right about this. And so she says, "Well, tell me something interesting about yourself." And he's really trying to overthink this stuff. Peter has shut down pretty much every mode of human emotion you can think of at this point. It's like he's reemerging as a human being. It's almost like he's been reborn and starting to learn how to become human for the first time. It's really weird. And he blurts out, of course, that he had nosebleeds as a kid and gushers all the time, and his it got so bad that his mom took him to get an MRI, and it turns out he has a brain nub. And when he gets extremely nervous or sad, he gets a nosebleed. Is what happens. And they're like, "Okay, that's kinda interesting." And they both feel just kinda weird in the fancy restaurant, so they both decide to leave. They go and get, Gino's and Pat's cheesesteaks. They're right across the street from each other in Philadelphia. I know this much, I've never been to Philadelphia before, but I know that you're supposed to go to Gino's and Pat's and try basically, you have the cheesesteak challenge to see which one says they're better than the other, and as Simone says when they switch halves of the cheesesteak, "I think they're the same," which I thought was kinda funny. Uh, and of course, they're walking along, and Simone sees, and it looked like the same 2 guys that were catcalling her in the alley, like, back in, episode 2, and, not catcalling her, but basically, harassing her in the alley, and, she basically tells him, this isn't going to work out. He's just emerging as a person. How is this going to work out? He doesn't have any experience. He doesn't even know whether he likes, he can't even answer the question cake or pie, which one he likes better. He likes them both, of course. And she essentially starts breaking up with him. First, she starts having a fight with him and then breaks up with him, essentially, telling him that, he needs to grow into himself a little bit more. And he says, "Well, how long is that going to take?" And how long? He says, "What, a year?" And she's like, "Yeah, a year." And he says, "Okay." And they decide to part ways at this point, and she tells him to take care of himself and calls him Petri dish. And as she walks away, Peter gets a nosebleed, which is him being sad, of course, because it's not him being nervous at that point. It's just him being very sad. Yeah. So then we end up going back to the diner, and we see, from Janice's point of view, what happened when she got that phone call, and that Fredwin was overhearing, was kind of eavesdropping on her, and she gets some bad news. We know it's about Lev at this point, and Fredwin follows her to the hospital, where Lev's been admitted, and he is on life support at this point, and Janice needs to make the decision to take him off of life support. And of course, she's calling her son. Her son's not answering, and Fredwin ends up talking to Lev about subliminal advertising, and uh, Janice ends up having a talk with her younger self about her younger self keeps berating her that she doesn't know how to live on her own. She's always been a mother or a wife and doesn't know how to live on her own. And she goes, "We'll get through this. We always have, but I need you with me." She says, "Pushing me," all that kind of stuff, right? Sorry, it's a little bit, even thinking about it a little bit, it makes me a little emotional about this. So, she, of course, signs the papers to to take Lev off of life support. Fredwin's there with her, and as Lev passes away, they both have his hand, and Lev passes away. And at Lev's funeral with Janice, she gives a really heartfelt eulogy and basically saying that, you know, she doesn't know really what she's good at because Lev was so damn good at everything that she didn't have to be good at everything. And but she's gonna it'll be okay. And so the group is all there as well at that funeral. And afterwards, they meet Janice and tell her you know how moving it was and everything. And of course, Fredwin says, "Well, I brought our game files. I thought everyone should have their game files." And he says, "Yes, I took a peek at them, but nothing bad or anything like that. I just thought we should have them. You want to burn them or laminate them or whatever you want to do." And he says, essentially, they part ways at this point. Is what happens is the game is over with as far as they're concerned, and they're walking away. And then we get Lee talking over. Basically, she's giving snippets of everyone's files as we're seeing what's happening to them after the game, with Janice basically kind of adrift, lost at this point. Peter as well, and how Peter was just kind of uh, setting up all these routines in order to stay safe when really he wasn't being safe at all. He was just creating his own prison. Same thing with Simone. That strength and weaknesses are not, strength and weakness are not mutually exclusive, as she says. And basically, it's Lee psychoanalyzing them, saying that they're better together as a group than apart. And then they said, and then there's Fredwin, and then there's Fredwin, and then there's Fredwin. Uh, he is the one you got to watch out for because he goes back to the mausoleum. He picks the lock at night, goes inside, and what does he do? He opens up Clara's urn, reaches inside, and puts it in his mouth. And he starts chewing, and he grabs the urn down, and we see inside the urn is actually a bunch of candy. There is no Clara, or no ashes, I should say, in there. Um, and that's how we end off on the episode. Yeah. So basically, Lee had tailored the game to our group here, and then also, she ended up, I guess, creating more of a game. I don't know what's going on now at this point. So, if you saw the trailer for next week's episode, we have Fredwin, of course, saying how he's actually now taking over the narration of this, and it's now Fredwin's game at this point. So we're gonna see how that goes next week. Yeah. Yeah. Well, as Lee said that Fredwin, is aware of what he does to people around him, the people that he loves, and he tries to stop it. He tries to let it go, but he can't. He just, he needs to find uh what if he's right, kind of thing. What if there is more? And that's why he's always searching. That's why he's always digging deeper into all of this. And it's his obsessive nature, is really what it is. It's his obsessive compulsive nature at this point. Yeah. Penn says, I'm still interested to see where they go with this next. Yeah, me too. I mean, because we still have two more episodes here. We got a ninth episode and a 10th episode. No, next week's episode is not the last episode. Next week's episode is the penultimate episode. And then we have one more episode after that. We have 10 episodes this season. And hopefully it gets picked up for a season two. It deserves a season two. It really does. Viking Bitch says, I know it started as a game, but I love all these characters, so I still want to know what happens next. Yeah, me too. I'm fairly sure that Clara is not dead. But I don't know if there is if there's a happy ending for Clara or not in all of this. So we'll see what happens. I think when Lee said that she killed Clara, I think she meant she killed Clara's drive, her desire, uh Yeah, basically her, what does they say, joie de vivre, joy of life kind of thing. And I think that's what Lee is talking about. So we'll see what happens. Because if I remember correctly, no, maybe I'm wrong. So we know that the suicide attempt happened in November, from the newspaper article, November of 1999. So how would she have? I don't know how she died in descent. Well, she could have reattempted, but yeah, there we go. Anyway, maybe Lee thinks these four could re-inspire Claire. Could be. And then it goes back to my original theory that this is all to find people that could spread that, the uh, divine nonchalance, as she puts it, back out there again, and inspire other people to do the same, and re-inspire Clara as well. Penn, yeah, that's what this could all be. We don't know, but damn good episode. Uh, Lots of good stuff out there. So what do my lurkers in there think? I know I've got my two mods floating around in there, and I know Yeet Yo Dude is been cutting onions while this episode was playing, and I agree. I understand that pain. But what does everyone else think? Do you guys like this episode? Do you not like it? Yeah. Well, there's a couple different ways this could go. You can nod yes, you can nod no. You can nod yes, then no. You can nod no, then yes. Or you can not note at all. Not at all. There we go. Yo, dude. So I think this is my favorite episode of the season so far. Very well balanced. Um, I still like the Simone episode, to tell you the truth. I think that was my favorite. Yeah. So far, you know. You like that one, Pal? It was going back to Fredwin's trying to suss out what was going on during orientation. And I mean, come on, give props to Andre Benjamin for fucking, you know, I know the guy can act. I've seen him act before. I mean, he's a talented musician. I've seen him act well before, but this one, I mean, he's knocking this thing out of the ballpark as this obsessive compulsive character. And I mean, this is actually really awesome of him. I mean, it's really, really good. Um, and I mean, just everybody involved, quite honestly. Everyone involved has been doing such a good job. Um, I love Richard E. Grant played two different characters. And I mean, to be able to bounce off of playing this character, a character playing a character, actually, he's playing two different characters playing two other characters. So he's really playing fucking four characters now at this point. Yeah, four characters is really what he's playing in this, with one guy doing this. That that, my friends, is talent, acting talent. And he should get definitely I mean, he really does deserve an Emmy nomination for this one. Just simply for that alone. Yeah, Pale, if this turns out to be a sex thing, I'm not saying I'm unwilling to, but I would be very disappointed in this. Mikey Bitch says agreed. The acting is amazing. I think this is some of Jason Segel's best work. Yeah, I agree with you. This is some of his best work. Um, and really, if it gets only one season, um, which would be a real shame. I don't know where you're gonna go with the second season, quite honestly, of this. But if it only gets one season, I'll be happy with it. I'll be sad that it only has one season, but it feels like a confined, not a confined story, a contained story, if you will. Yeah, a self-contained story, and I think that would work. Sorry, I had to clear the throat there for a second. So, Oh, what else do I have going on? Tomorrow is going to be Future Man. It's the final season of Future Man on Hulu. Wednesday is gonna be Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I'm gonna be finishing that up. I think we only have a couple more episodes left on that season. Thursday, I'm off. Friday is the excellent second season of Harley Quinn on DC Universe. Saturday is Saturday Morning Blast Off, where I take the genre news of the week and any other genre stuff you guys want to talk about. And hopefully, if the internet holds up, the live stream holds up well, I can talk about it with you without it breaking up and me sounding like Max Headroom or whole sentences dropping out, kind of like what just happened right there. I saw a little skip that happened in that one. Um, Sunday, of course, is Westworld, and we come back around again to Dispatches from Elsewhere. Excuse me. That just was kind of a weird one. Oh man, yes, there is such good TV on right now. So remember to like, share, and subscribe down there. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the video that pops up here at the end of this video. If you like that, hit the subscribe button. Also, if you want to know when we are on live again next, you can hit the bell down below. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. Best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com, where my weekly schedule is up there, and all my social media links are up there as well. Up here is going to be Westworld, is what's going to be up there at the end of this video as well. So, with that, I'm gonna let you guys go, so you guys can go and wipe the onion tears out of your eyes and all that kind of good stuff. Give your face a good wash. Remember, wash your hands first. Do that really well, and then wash your face, and yeah, all that stuff. You don't want to have those tear streaks happening. 'Cause that just, even if you're by yourself, if you're self quarantining, all that kind of stuff, it's not a good look. It really isn't. So thank you everybody for joining me. Thank you to all of you who joined me tonight in the chat. Thank you for getting this far in the video. And until tomorrow for Future Man, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you everybody. I will see you tomorrow for Future Man. Until then, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may end up watching a really damn good show that's going to make you cry a couple of times during one of the episodes. Thanks everybody. I will see you tomorrow. Have a good night. Stay safe.